The cage was suspended high in the clouds, drifting through the winds of time peacefully, swaying with the occasional breeze. Shielded from the realities of the world outside he had yet to fully grasp, was a young boy. The boy knew there was more to life than his cage. He knew one day he would have to grow up. He knew there was plenty of looking forward to, a lot of fun to be had, but for now he was a kid, and he quite enjoyed being one. The boy figured he would have plenty of time to grow up. No need to worry about all that stuff, he thought. Yet he was restless. Time had slipped by without much of a fight from the boy, not quite so young anymore. The cage he had lived in his entire life was starting to feel a little cramped. He was ready to spread his wings, so to speak. Despite the fact the boy may have outgrown his cage, part of him, deep down, maybe didn't want to leave so bad after all. The gravity of the situation slowly dawned on him. He started to feel something tugging at him, a consistent pull towards adulthood. Up until this point, he had felt a cozy distance from it, wondering what it would be like from the comfort of his shelter. However, now he sensed it was approaching him more and more quickly. The peaceful swaying and gentle breezes he had known for most of his life were not the same as they used to be. A slow, wispy howl began to heave through the cage's bars, dragging the cage recklessly through the clouds it was previously perched above. The boy was just a passenger for this ride. He tried his best to correct for a more graceful descent. It was no use, however. The cage rattled like an enraged machine, ready to tear itself apart as gravity violently ripped it towards the ground at an accelerating rate. The boy felt the forest below start to swallow him. The cage started to twist and tumble as it collided with the whip of branches snapping against it. Whether he liked it or not, his time in the cage was coming to an abrupt end. He did not know if he actually wanted to leave the cage anymore. He had always wanted to, but it was too late to question anything. His mind was racing. What if I'm not ready? This can't be... The ground did not give way for the boy. Thud. Searing pain. High-pitched calls from the birds circling indignantly above. Dazed and confused, he stumbled as if drunk, bumping into the bars of the cage surrounding him. He squinted ahead, hand half covering his face as he attempted to make out the features of his surroundings. Some green foliage, dirt, sticks, and yet more dirt. A forest, clearly, and a fairly large one at that. Great. Not only had he fallen several hundred feet, barely escaping death, but now he had to find a way out of this wild maze with no support. The sudden impact of the fall had left him slightly unsteady. He'd been expecting it for quite some time now, but hadn't anticipated the blow of it. It seemed as if with every few days some unconquerable task appeared in front of him. Step by step, familiarity and comfort faded in the face of independence and change. Some days this was exciting, invigorating. Finally, something new. Other days he wanted to rewind time, maybe crawl under his blankets and stay there for the next, maybe decade or so. This was definitely one of the latter moments. He took a few tentative steps away from the cage. Okay, not too bad. The bird calls were definitely getting less and less intimidating, and there wasn't any poisonous animals around as far as he could tell. Maybe this would be easier than he first thought. He slowly continued on, jumping slightly whenever a twig snapped beneath his feet, but nonetheless steadily moving forward. He picked up the pace, wincing slightly as the icy wind shrugged its way past him. Trees loomed on either side, branches creaking as birds flocked to them. He was sure they were settling, not because of the approaching night, but purely to mock his efforts. He knew he looked like a bedraggled, pitiful figure, making every possible mistake in his attempt to leave the forest. Still, he forged on. The sky darkened. His limbs ached. His thoughts were blurry with fatigue, but he could feel his confidence grow, ever so slightly. He made it this far after all. He wasn't a child anymore, being coddled or protected. It was up to him to move forward and face the challenges ahead. He wasn't omniscient, and he didn't have to be. He'd learn as he went along, and as he made mistakes, he could learn wisdom for the future. He took a deep breath, drew himself up, and took a step forward, out of the forest.